Okay, well, why don't we get started? Good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Banks, and I am the Director of Sales at Clients First. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and all that holiday shopping to join us this morning. For those of you who have been through some of the SMI webinars previously, the person who will be talking momentarily will be no stranger to you, and that's Debbie Hill. Debbie is one of the top sales engineers at Sage Software and has a strong familiarity with the new Sage intelligence tool, which is SMI. And what we thought we'd do today is allow Debbie to take you into a little deeper show of the product so that you can kind of learn the real value of the tools that are going to be available to all of you with the products that you currently have that are Sage. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie, and Debbie's going to take you into the SMI product. So Debbie?
Great, thanks Jeff. And again, welcome everyone. So let's take a look at today's agenda. It's really straightforward. We're going to go over the workflow one more time, the modules and components one more time, and then we'll take a look at the demonstration. So for those of you that were at the user group, or if you attended the first session, we had a lot of slides and a lot of talking points. And on the flip side, today we're going to do mostly demonstrations. So with that said, let's start our review, again with the workflow. So here's the Sage MAS Intelligence workflow. This is exactly what we're going to look at in the demonstration, how we're going to build these reports. We're going to look through all the components and then go ahead and distribute it. So just for a refresher, Sage MAS Intelligence, this is how it works. You've got all your little pieces of data. Remember, those are all data sets from any ODBC compliant data source. So it's not just your MAS data, it's not just your Sage data, it's anything. And again, ODBC compliant, I would say 90% of the products out there are. It's just open database connectivity. So anything, again, it's built with this compliance. Unless you have something that's rather outdated, or perhaps someone, a friend of the organization, built the program. But in general, I'm very confident most all of the programs you're using are ODBC compliant. That means we have those little boxes that will fit in this data set, and we can use that data in Sage MAS Intelligence. So again, we take this data, all those little different data sets, and we put them in the connector module. Again, we'll see this in detail today in the demonstration. So we're connecting all those little bits of data. We put them through our security, which we'll also take a look at. That goes into the report manager, so we can build our report, build the columns, the rows, get everything in the layout we like, and then we'll send it to Excel. Again, remember, Excel is the engine behind Sage MAS Intelligence, and that's one of the primary reasons for Sage choosing this product, is because Excel is the worldwide #1 report writer. So moving away from FRX, again, that was a very specific product. Not everyone knew how to build reports. It was a lot more complicated. Now with Excel, most everyone's used Excel. Either you are the Excel expert or you know someone who is. And so by using the Sage MAS Intelligence tool, you can use and take advantage of all of your current Excel knowledge and build it into these reports moving forward. So again, one additional feature, one of the many additional features we're getting, is we can take these Excel workbooks, we can publish them to a web server, so you can have them scheduled and run and distribute automatically across your organization. Or what we're going to do in the demonstration is take it from a workbook just to my user desktop so we can see that. But again, with FRX, you did require a drill-down license to view any of the reports. But you can see from this distribution here, as long as you have Microsoft Office installed, you can view an Excel workbook. So that's our workflow between all the components. Let's just briefly go over our icons. Again, this is just a high level. We went into the detail, and all these PowerPoints are available for you after the conference, after the calls. So Report Manager, this is what is the FRX replacement. It's replacing the FRX Report Designer. It allows you to create, design, run your reports, get them in the format you like. Again, distribute them. You can print them to PDF. Any sort of report management. This is really the bulk of the SMI engine. Report Viewer, again, comparable to the launcher, the FRX launcher. All the reports that exist, you can define who has access to what, and then users can go ahead, pull the report, change the parameters that have been set, for example, period, division, depending on what's available. You can't edit anything, but you can at least run the reports. Security Manager, obviously we need to keep everything tightly secured. It does respect the MAS security that's set up in role maintenance and user maintenance. License Manager, that's where you enter your keys. Client First will get that set up for you. That's a one-time thing. You won't need to worry about that. But here's what we're really going to focus on today, the connector module and the report designer. So the connector does just that. It connects all information across your entire organization. So it's not just your MAS data. It's not just any of your Sage application data. It's anything that you're using organization-wide, any bit of information that's out there, the connector module is going to bring those bits of information in and allow you to build reports. And again, building reports, this is our business intelligence. We want to be proactive. We want to be able to retrieve our information in an intuitive manner so we can make good business decisions. And again, we can make decisions based on good data. So we want to make sure everyone's accessing the same data set, everyone's able to analyze their divisions, their departments based on correct information. So with the connector module, we're getting data, again, across the entire organization, pulling it into an intelligent report so you can make your business decisions. Now that brings us to the report designer. This is another module. This is the Excel add-in. So when it comes to building reports, again, connector, we're going to pull all the data together. Report manager, we're going to build the report. But with the report designer, there's a lot of key points here that will help you build reports, modify reports, and again, it's an Excel add-in, so you can take advantage of your Excel skills and anything you don't have, or if you perhaps want to take those skills to the next level, the report designer is a great tool to help you do that. So we're going to see these all in the demonstration. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the first part of the demonstration. We're going to modify an income statement. And I'm going to just hop real quick. We're first going to modify an income statement. So here we've got what we've been tasked with. We're going to show actual versus prior for the first 2 quarters only. So right now you might have your regular income statement, obviously by period, by quarter, that's all standard. But if we wanted to build a report, again, this is our task for the first 2 quarters, actual versus prior. So let's take a look at modifying an existing income statement. I'll hop over to MAS, and we've got our intelligence here. Again, we're in 4.4. Let's take a look and open up Sage MAS Intelligence. So this is the report manager. Again, replacing report designer. Now, notice we're logging into our company. We've got our username and our password. So all of the permissions that were set within MAS and all of the permissions that were set within MAS Intelligence, all of those are going to be respected based on your login here. Now, the first thing we're going to do is actually create a new folder. And this is so we can keep all of our reports in one area. It's also good to always copy reports. So we're not, we can keep the integrity of the original template. I'm just going to copy and paste it in my reports. And again, go ahead and rename it. I'll just call it mine. Perfect. Okay, so easy enough. There, we've got our report. And again, when we start building folders, this is another way to add security and different parameters. So each individual or perhaps each group in the office or organizations can have their own folder, and that way you're only accessing the folders that you have options to and information to. So we talked about parameters. Again, we saw this in the last, oops, I saw that right, in the last demonstration, but all the parameters can be defined, a limited amount, whatever you need. It does go back to the original MAS table. We're just going to do our data for 2010 and the original budget. So when we pull up the designer, again, this was our task. We're doing an income statement showing actual versus prior, but only for the first 2 quarters. So when we use the designer, this is again the tool that's going to help us quickly and easily create reports. And I'll show the difference between using the designer. But again, if you have the Excel expert on staff, or if you're the expert in your office, there's a number of different ways. We can still use the tool, but you can still use your existing skills. So what we're going to do with the designer, I'm a big fan of copying information, copying layouts, copying formats. At any point, you do have the option to actually start from scratch and build it from a blank template. However, I'm more of not recreating the wheel and just modifying what we have. So we've got our designer, and we're going to go ahead and launch the designer tool, and this will begin our building process. And it looks like we've got a little bit of a delay here. There we go. So we've got our report designer. It's actually pulled all the information, all of our financial information. Now we can go ahead with our task here. We're going to go to BI Tools. This is the new tab that the designer module has. So we can go ahead and edit any of our reports. We can generate any of the reports. We've got a number of different options here. Now, remember last time when we took a look at the standard financial reports that are available in the Report Manager, this is a list of some of them, but it's the exact same layouts that you currently have in your General Ledger standard financial statements. So all of those combinations are available in this tool as well. And remember, you can continue to use those standard financial statements. Those are output in Crystal. You can continue to use FRX, and this is just an additional tool now we can go ahead, install it, and start using. So there's our standard layouts. I'm going to go ahead and launch the tool for the financial report. Again, this is the designer module. So like I mentioned before, I prefer to copy. We do have the option to do a new layout, build it from scratch, or we're going to load a layout. And again, our task was to create an income statement showing actual versus prior for the first 2 quarters. So actual versus prior income statement, and I'm going to copy it. It's going to be my half-year report. Oops. Trying to use shortcuts here. This is my half-year report, and this is the designer tool. So it's going to load. There's going to be a lot of boxes. We're going to explain those boxes just real quickly. So unlike the FRX designer, you don't have to know any of the formulas, the at tote, the at calc. You don't have to go through the row format and then the column format. Actually, everything's combined into this one report designer. So let's explain a little bit what we're looking at here. It's pretty straightforward. Columns, these are all our columns, and these are all our rows. So for the columns, I'm going to clear everything because we're going to modify it again. Remember, we just see the first 2 quarters. For the rows, same thing, we can clear everything, but this is the basic income statement format. Obviously, your sales, cost of sales, profit percentage, etc., all of your expenses, earnings, net income or loss. So this is standard income statement, and again, I'm a fan of copying, so I'm going to leave all this intact because we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. But I want to show you how easy it is to actually create a report based on just using this report designer. So all of our green boxes here on the left, these are all fields from MAS. These are all data fields. So they look familiar: account, account description, company name, etc. All of the blue ones, these are calculated fields. And obviously this makes sense because activity quarter one, that's a calculated field. We're combining information. Prior year activity year to date, again, all of these are calculations. So our task when we come to create an income statement, it's actual versus prior for the first 2 quarters. So what we're going to do, activity quarter one, activity quarter two. Oh, actually, and then let's go ahead and remove that. Activity quarter one, prior year quarter one. We're going to add a spacer. Activity quarter two, prior quarter two. Again, quite straightforward. Add a spacer. And now let's get some totals. So if we want the total of the half year, we look through all of our formulas and we can probably determine that it's not going to be there. Again, we're combining 2 quarters. So we can go ahead and create a new formula. And this is going to be very straightforward. Again, green, this means it's just an existing field. And we're going to do our entire half year activity. Where are we here? And that means adding all 6 periods. So the first half of the year, I'm using my function items. So we're building a formula here. We're building an Excel formula, but rather than having to know, again, this is very basic, rather than having to know the Excel formulas, we can use this tool. So just like FRX, you don't have to be, FRX, you do have to be an expert to build these reports. With Sage MAS Intelligence, you don't have to be the FRX expert. You don't even have to be an Excel expert. We can go ahead and use this tool here. It's really straightforward, function items, point and click. So that's our 6 periods. 6 months. And excuse the spelling mistakes there. So we've created that new formula. It's down at the bottom, activity 6 months. Let's do one more for prior. Let's scroll through all of our fields, activity, budget, here's prior year. So any sort of variance, if you calculate variance perhaps a little differently, if there's any sort of modifications that you need to make to variance calculations, this is again a great place to do it because we have percentages, you have your variance, and you can add values. So you can add any sort of standard calculations that will be done throughout the board there. And this is our prior 6 months. And there it is at the bottom. So these are all of our calculated fields. We've got all of our activity, any of the variance we need, etc. So let's go ahead and generate our layout. So what we've done, we've used the income statement formula, or layout, the standard layout, and then we've built our own column. Because again, the actual versus prior for the first 2 quarters. So we're going to go ahead, generates everything. And now we've built our template. So remember I spelled this wrong. Let's go ahead, add our Y for 6 months. Any sort of modifications we need to do, we can. Now notice here, we've got our subtotal. This is our Excel formula. So this is when I say you can use your standard skill set. We could type this as manually, or like we saw in the demonstration, we can build our own formula. So the report designer, again, it's a very, very good tool. It helps you easily get all your formulas together. It's easy to build a report, to copy a template, etc. Let's go. Also what's included, again, all of the drill down information, your revenues, cost of sales, so everything comes through. We've done our quarter 1, quarter 2, and our total activity. So it's that easy just to create a report. we can go ahead and save this. And we'll just put it on my desktop. My income statement 1. Perfect. We'll go ahead and close out. Now again, if I need to make any modifications, I can do so. Here's my report now that it's saved. We've got all of our columns. That's everything that we built, our filters, and our parameters. So parameters, again, remember, this is where we're going to define the data set. I had the fiscal year and the budget code. Now you can also lock parameters down on an individual basis. So again, perhaps some individuals can only look at specific budgets. It becomes more applicable when you get into divisions, etc. Now that's my report. If we wanted to distribute my report, let's show some of these advanced options. We can lock the report. Again, security very, very tight here. We can also protect the output. That means that we don't want that. We can password protect it, and we can also ensure that specific individuals aren't going to be making modifications. Another option when it comes to, again, it is an Excel workbook. It can be a live workbook. What we might want to do is, again, print it to PDF and distribute it that way. But keep in mind who's going to have access to the information. We can hide it. Again, our generate output file here, and a number of different options. So that's how we do all the security and distribution options. Excuse me. Okay, so now let's take a look. That's how we modify the income statement and how we can create one and build one from scratch. So again, very, very straightforward. Now let's take a look at the connector module. So just real quick, I apologize, let's go. From our report structure, we're going to go through our connector, our report manager, and then to Excel. So we start with all of our MAS data, and notice we do have 3 different boxes of MAS data here. When we talked last time, Sage MAS Intelligence, it's a lot more than just financial information. It's also your inventory, your sales, and your purchasing information. So that's why we have those 3 different boxes, because with the connector module, we're opening it up to all modules and all data sets. So in this example, we're just going to be using MAS information. So we've got our little pieces of MAS, and we pull them over to the connector module. In the connector module, again, we build containers. So this is review from last time, but we're going to see it in action. So the container, again, we want to build reports, but we want to narrow down the data sets. We don't want to pull in the entire AP file into this container, because you're going to have to sift through all the different files, the fields, the exact data sets. So we're just going to pick and choose what we bring into the container module. We've got the connector. We're going to build our containers, and then we're going to throw that information into the report manager. Build, just like we saw with that income statement, we're going to do a similar setup, and then take a look at the report in Excel. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead. We'll create our standard report. We're going to use the report manager, and here's what it's going to look like. We're going to build the container, set the columns, filter the data, and take a look at variables. So we'll go back to MAS because I have the report manager open. So what I need to do is open our connector. Again, asking me to log on to the company, to the username and password, making sure everything's kept tight and secure. And we have our enterprise. So this is everything that I have installed on my local image here. And you'll notice all the ODBC drivers, all of the different product lines, any type of DSN, anything you have system-wide. So the only thing applicable here for us is this ODBC driver. We've got our MAS Auto Connect we're going to take a look at. And these are the reports, these are the containers that come by default. Now, because, again, Sage MAS Intelligence, it's more than just financial reports. We do have our customer sales, inventory, and vendor purchases. And this is what comes with the report manager straight out of the box. So you do have access to this data. Let's take a look at customer sales, all that information. Next, let's take a look at financial reports, because this is what we looked at. Account activity. Again, remember all those fields? Because we're using this container, this is pre-built for us, though. Here's where all that information lies. Okay, so let's go ahead and build our container. We're going to do a sales and a purchases. So we're going to start with sales. We're going to add our container. Now remember I said you just pull little bits and pieces over. You're not pulling the whole file. So because I'm using my MAS database, we're only going to stick with MAS. So look at all the other files again, anything that's out there on your server. Also to keep in mind, any other Excel workbooks or anything else that you're receiving, any type of file that you're receiving. So if your vendor is sending you an Excel file or perhaps a text file, and you're importing that into MAS, or perhaps you're just opening it to take a look at, Notepad, Microsoft Office, anything in that format, those are ODBC compliant sources. So you can actually use those and combine them with reports here. So you'll notice that you have the ODBC driver for Excel. That'll be very helpful if you're receiving, again, external files. So we're going to do a sales and purchases, though. Let's start with sales. These are all the files within MAS. And if you don't happen to know the file layouts, again, we do have training on that. Obviously, Clients First probably has most of these memorized. They can do them in their sleep. But we do want to empower our customers to be able to access this information on their own as well. So if we take a look at our MAS, resources, file layouts, and program information. So this will detail all the information that we're going to see in these files. So again, the information's there. It becomes just a matter of where to go, where to find it. But as we're improving the MAS product, one of the things we've done with the new business framework is we've renamed all of our files. So you can get a good idea, AR_open invoice. You can take a guess that that's probably what our sales are right now. So you don't have to know in previous versions it was AR5, AR_10, all of those, we've changed it into English now. So we're building our container for sales, AR invoice. When I say OK, now we've got our new container. So the container, let's change this to just, let's just change it to AR. And that'll keep it easy. We'll say sales for the description. But we do have to add information to it. So we're going to add our data. Remember, it's our container. We build our container. I just selected the one open invoice file, but we can select a number of different files, whatever we need. And now we're building just those little pieces of data that's in the open invoice. Here's everything that's listed. So again, when we build in the container, we just need tiny bits of information. We're narrowing down the tiny bits of information so we can get something that's more manageable. So for our sales, we're going to do our division. Let's do customer number, invoice date, and down here, balance. We'll say OK. So there's our accounts receivable. That's our container, and that's all the data that's in that container. So again, remember financial reports, these ones in red, because we're in the connector module, we get to see the detail. But the standard report manager, this is all done behind the scenes for you. If we take a look at our financial reports, again, all the information. So we're really simplifying it for the demonstration here. So there's our sale. Let's do one more for purchases. And this is going to be AP open invoices. Same thing, all the little data sets. Let's just rename that. I'm going to add expressions, and actually let's cancel. Let's talk about that. We're doing it real quickly here. The data fields, you have your SQL expressions, Excel formulas, and pass-through variables. So when it comes to building reports, you can use a lot of standard defaults, use the templates. You can keep it very simple. If you have, again, macros enabled, SQL expressions, there's a lot more you can do with just standard Excel and using Sage MAS Intelligence to have that template generated with your MAS information. Now, when it comes to, again, Excel, a lot of different options, a lot of power here. We have a lot of training on Sage University. So sageu.com, if you haven't registered, as long as you're current on your maintenance, you can go ahead and take a look at some of the Excel classes that are out there. And there are some introduction ones that are free of charge. And if you want to take it to the next level, again, Sageu does offer continuing courses. So we're not doing SQL expressions or formulas. We're just going to stick to our data fields here. We'll say OK. And same comparable fields, division, vendor, invoice number, invoice date, and then balance bottom here. OK, so really straightforward. We've built our containers. Now we can go ahead and pull them into report. So I switched back over to the report manager. It says so up here. Same user interface throughout Sage MAS Intelligence, but again, looks a lot different than FRX, looks a lot different than MAS, but it's all for a good cause here. For our reports, let's do a new report, and it's a standard report, and this is our sales, and the AP and AR. So these are all our containers that we have. AP, AR, we just made these. Again, all of the data sets that were in that container, we're going to select them all. And let's do the same for purchases. That's AP. There's our little container, our data set. We'll select all and say OK. So we're just using AR and AP information. But again, if you're connecting with anything from any other product, any other list, any data set, when we talk about business intelligence, it's data across your entire organization, not just the MAS product. And we're also aware that it's not just Sage products. It's across your entire organization. So we've got our reports. Let's just run them to make sure that we've got information here. So I click Run. This is our AP. So we'll see the Excel file, again, with all the columns, division number, balance, invoice, vendor. So really straightforward. That's how we can build a report. And again, any skill set that you have for Excel, we can make this template. We can change the template. If we wanted to do other calculations, remember our add-ins and our business intelligence tools, we still have access to those. We're going to say no to change the report. What I want to move to now is a union report. So we're going to do a union. Obviously, that makes kind of easily defined. We're going to join a purchase report and a sales report. So we've built our containers using the connector module. We can easily get that data into Excel worksheets and Excel layouts like we saw. We've got our purchases, we've got our sales, but that's just raw data. Again, if we're going to make business decisions, we need to have this formulated in a way that makes sense. So in my reports, let's go ahead and add a union report. We did our standard report, which was just basic Excel, getting the data from MAS into Excel. And actually, what we found, and I mentioned this in the last session, but just to reiterate, what we found in our customer base when we did our surveys is the majority of customers are exporting information from MAS into Excel. So you're either using the export wizards, you're using the Crystal, pulling it up in Crystal, exporting it, or if you have Visual Integrator. But whatever method it was, customers were taking data from MAS and putting it into Excel. Now with MAS Intelligence, rather than going through those manual steps, what we would just do is create the template like we did purchases and sales. We just got the data sets that we need, and we exported it into Excel. Now, we didn't modify any of the layout formulas or anything. But once you do that, you save the template, and you only do it once. So what our customers, again, were doing, it was a constant daily export and then modifying the file. We're not going to do that anymore. You're just going to set up your file, set out your layout, and the data will just come in whenever it's run. Okay, so that being said, for the export, we did our standard reports, really basic. Let's take a look at union reports and how this can help. And say OK, and this is going to be sales and purchases. So again, we have all of the reports we can include in the union. These are our financial reports, our dashboards. Remember what we saw last time, the dashboard? When we generated that, all the defaults, so we've got your financials, sales, etc. This is everything. And then remember here, that was my income statement, so we can use that since we saved it. We're going to do purchases and sales, 2 reports here. Now, we know it's a union report because it's a different color here. I believe that's green. I have a little trouble with my color sometimes, but we do know it's different. It's notified that. And we've got our union sub-report. So we can see, again, we only have 2 reports. Let's drill down. Our union sub-reports, drill down. There's our purchases and our sales. Now, what I want to happen here, I want these to go on different worksheets in my Excel workbook. So purchases, I'm going to put this on sheet number 3. Sales, I'm going to make sure, here we go, that's on sheet number 1. So again, when we generate reports, it's not just single layer. We can have as many sheets as we need in the total Excel workbook. And let's talk about licensing for just a minute, because remember I said earlier in the last session that if you need drill down capabilities, you do need at least the report viewer license. And the way around that, if you don't want to give everyone a license, if they just have Microsoft Office, we would add additional reports, purchases, sales. We would add additional reports with the drill down information, the detail information. Right now we're only looking at open invoices here. We'd add more with detailed drill downs, and then we would just say what sheet that information is going to be in. So again, when you're thinking of what you need in a report, when you're going through your daily tasks, again, as probably not the rest of this week, but maybe that can be your New Year's resolution, is to start really thinking about all the reports that you're generating, all the data you're trying to get out of your system, and then again, reach out to clients first so we can get what your needs are, get them in Sage MAS Intelligence, get you set up with the appropriate number of users and licenses, and really start streamlining your report process in 2011. Okay, so we've got our information set up, our sales and purchases. Remember, we saw the purchases is really straightforward. We're going to go ahead and run. Now, we don't have any parameters set on this, which is okay for us because we're in demo data environment. But obviously, what we'd really want in the real world is some parameters based on date, maybe divisions, etc. So here's what we have, a list of all of our information. Accounts receivable on sheet 1, just like we said. Accounts payable on sheet 3. So we're just getting the data out of MAS. It's live information. It's as soon as anything's been updated or posted once we generate it. Again, it's reaching those MAS tables. It's all current information, and it's all correct information. So we've got our AP, our division, our balance, and our invoice date. So let's take a look at how we can do some standard Excel skills and some Sage MAS Intelligence enhancements. So we're going to go ahead and insert a pivot table. The table range, we're going to delete this, click F3, because I want to take a look at raw data. So here's our accounts payable information. Again, because we built that container and we kept it very simple, we only have a few fields here. And that's good for simplicity purposes. If we need more, we can add them. But again, we want to be careful when we add those files, because if we're scrolling through hundreds and hundreds of lists here, it gets a little time consuming. But on the other side, once you build the template, you keep it and save it forever, and the data just populates as the report's generated. So for our pivot table, let's do the division, the balance, and let's do invoice dates. Oops, and you know what? We're going to go to report layout. Let's use the design. These are Mass Intelligence. This is part of the report designer. It's helpful. Report layout, I'm going to show in tabular formula. Now, I'm moving around and I'm going to different tabs and we're using different features, and it's definitely nothing that you would turn on, obviously, and navigate where to go. But that's why we have Clients First to help you. That's why we have Sage University. So I'm just showing you going through some of the steps. But again, if you're not thinking you can remember all this, there's a lot of different options here. We can really simplify that. And obviously, as you get started with the product, we're going to be there to help you through it. So I just wanted to show some of the standard Excel features and how that compares to the Mass Intelligence features. So again, when we have our pivot tables, again, options and design, this is going to be very helpful. As you saw, we can just change our report layout, and now we've got our information there. So let's do one more. That was our accounts payable. Now let's take a look at accounts receivable. And same thing, we're going to do a pivot table, raw data, and we're going to put it on the existing worksheet, which was number 4, and we're going to put it here. So same thing, division, invoice date, balance, and this is unfortunately just a setup option. So again, we want to minimize the number of clicks. When at the end, what I'll do, what I've learned just now, is I need to go and set some of my standard default, so we won't have to always click that report layout. So now we have our pivot table. Again, very easy to decipher any information. Rather than having to be that Excel expert and build all this, it's all done very quick, very easily. If you do have some vendors that are perhaps also customers, I know that happens a lot, also in our customer number, we can have a lot of different options when it comes to sorting the data. Okay, so I'm going to remove that. Now, again, any sort of graphs, any sort of analysis, any analytics, we can bring the data, it's coming over from math, and now you can do all of your formulas. So all of our totals, all of this can be done using the report designer again, or we can do it using your native Excel. So let's take a look at pivot tables and really what they bring to the table. Here we've got just our raw data, but again, I want to mention our dashboard. Once we've got those tables, again, dashboard analytics, look, we've got our different icon there. We're just going to generate this real quick too as a reminder. And remember the parameters. That's everything. We skipped the parameters when it comes to sorting data, but I said it again, that's going to be very helpful for security and really helpful to narrow down the data sets. But we built our pivot tables just based on raw data. We just got the information out there. And keep in mind, when we save this sales and purchases report, once we get it all set up and designed the way we like, then you just generate it as needed. So we're not going through the constant modification of the report. We're not going to, again, recalculate, move the sums and formulas around. But ultimately, we've got our chart data. This is what we set up in our other book. Let's see, AP, AR, really quick and straightforward. But when it comes to the dashboard, look at the exact comparable information. It's just a data set, and then using your Excel skills, you get this dashboard. So again, dashboards are used so you can view any trends, any sort of business intelligence. It's a quick snapshot, and it's the information that you need, and it's in the format that you need it. Okay, so with that, let's take a look at just pivot charts again. A lot of customers, again, we're exporting to Excel. It's a great tool. There's a lot of flexibility with it. But it seems like people are doing real basic charts, or they're just looking through data sets, just looking through numbers. But why we would want to organize information into a pivot table, again, rather than having those long lists of data, put it into a short format, really just gives you the high level, the power information without having to sift through the detail. When it comes to detail, again, some reports it's required and some reports it's not. So with mass intelligence, what we would do is have multiple worksheets per book. Again, like we saw, we had a sheet for AP, we had a sheet for AR, and then we had a worksheet that combined the two. So when it comes to distributing these books, again, just like I mentioned with the drill down options, we want to make sure that we build the book in a way that's going to distribute all the information that's needed. So rather than looking and drilling down in multiple places, we're just going to look through multiple tabs. Same thing, what it says here, to organize data that's easy to chart. Because for the visual people out there, most people would prefer to see that dashboard that we saw, see a quick chart, rather than having to search through all of the data. So in summary, we do have about 10 minutes left. I do want to open it up for questions. We have some questions on the chat here, and I'll get those in just a minute. But with mass intelligence, what we saw today, this is the new reporting tool. So we talked about it last time, FRX being retired. I've mentioned again why we went with mass intelligence, because it uses the Excel, standard Excel native programming there. You can use your existing skills, or we do have those tools, that report designer, and that can help you build any sort of report that you need. Also, with the connector, we saw you can easily connect to any sort of database. So you can pull in tiny little bits of information. You can pull everything in, all of your, across the organization, any data that you need. And again, you put it into Excel, into a program that you're familiar with. Then you have an easy way to format that information, and again, build it in a way that allows you to make those good business decisions. Finally, it's included that report manager you already have, so talk to clients first, get up on version 4.4, and then you can go ahead, install it, and start playing around with it right away. Now, once we get to, and you're familiar with it, again, for your resolution for 2011, finding out all the different reports that you use, as you move forward, you might find that, you know, we really do need the report designer module. We really do need to add the connector because we want to go across the entire organization's data. Once you start playing around with it, you can add those modules at any time. So with that, Jeff, I'll let you, my apologies, let's just get that information. With that said, I'll let Jeff go ahead and explain the contacts while I start looking through these questions here.
Well, thanks, Debbie. Again, just to answer questions once we conclude this morning, our contact information is there in front of you for myself, Joanne, and Mary. Go ahead and hit the 800 number and dial our extensions, and we'd be happy to assist you with any questions you have regarding SMI or anything else that's going on. I don't know if we have any questions, so if you folks have some questions, right now would be a great time to put them in the chat window, and Debbie can get them answered for you. Everybody wants to run off and do all their Christmas shopping. That's what I'm hearing, right? We'll give it another 30 seconds here, and I think we're okay. Okay, well, great. Well, it looks like we're okay, and everybody got hopefully what they were looking for today. Debbie, thank you very much for doing this presentation for us today. And again, all of you, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend. And again, our contact information is here. We'll get the PowerPoint out to you, and we'll continue to follow up on any changes or upcoming other events regarding SMI. So with that, everybody have a safe and happy holiday and a great rest of your week. Thank you again. Bye-bye.